you for the courtesy, and I really appreciate your testimony today and for what you're doing. I mean that seriously. It's not the first time you guys have been before this committee. It may not be the last. But I want to make two comments very quickly. One is I want to applaud the ranking member and the chairman for your leadership in this committee. And really, I've used this word before. This committee is more nonpartisan, not bipartisan, nonpartisan. This is about national security. It's about global security. I used the word naive earlier, and I stick by that word. Ms. Secretary, you mentioned something before that you haven't heard any alternatives. Well, of course you have. We didn't talk about the third alternative. War was never talked about. We talked about this negotiation. We never talked about what got these people to the table in the first place. I'm a business guy, and I know how serious these sanctions have hurt them, and I think that we could have doubled down and at least talked about that as an alternative. But I want to come back to the word naive. But before I do that, let me set the record straight. My colleague from California said this was done in a bipartisan way. I take issue with that. This committee unanimously passed a bill recommending, it was an act, that gave us a look at this bill. Otherwise, we wouldn't know, or this agreement. Otherwise, nobody would know what was in this agreement other than the administration. So I give you guys full credit for that. But we never got a vote on it. We couldn't even get it to the floor of the Senate to have a vote on it. That's what drives my people back home absolutely apoplectic. I'm sorry, but that's what's wrong with this process. It's all talk. 58 to 42, 4 Democrats voted to even put it on the floor. The rest of them, unanimously almost, or 42 votes, voted to not even move this bill or to the floor to have a debate on it. The last thing I would say about the word naive, I didn't use that word lightly. Not just this administration, other administrations, this country, we don't have a great record dealing with rogue nations. In 1993, another administration said, trust us, this deal will preclude the potential of ever having a nuclear weapon on the peninsula of Korea. We know how that worked out. Of course these guys are headed toward a nuclear weapon. I mean, who are we trying to kid? The United Nations has no ability right now, in my view, except to talk because of the vetoes that are part of that Security Council situation. So I just think we were faced with a false choice here. I wanted to set the record straight, but I do want to commend this committee for its bipartisan, nonpartisan approach to this whole topic, and for the leadership of you guys and for what you guys are trying to do to make sure that the implementation of this thing goes properly. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I just, Senator Perdue is one of the most effective members of not only this committee but the United States Senate, and I very much deeply appreciate all the comments he made. I just really want to put on the record the negotiations took place, including with Senator Kaine and Senator Menendez and Senator Corker and other members of the committee. It was always envisioned that we would not have an expedited process for the consideration of the Iran agreement. Interpreted in common in layman's language, it was always anticipated there would be a 60-vote threshold in the United States Senate, so that it had to be a bipartisan action, considering that we have divided government between Congress and the White House by party. That was always envisioned in the agreement. And I know there's a different interpretation among the Democrats and Republicans as to whether we had a vote on the substance or not. I fully understand that and understand what Senator Perdue was saying. But I think the American people know that 58 senators opposed the agreement and 42 supported the agreement, and that it did not hit the 60-vote threshold that was the ground rules on which the legislation was negotiated, that got the broad support of unanimous support of this committee, near unanimous support of the United States Senate. I just really wanted to put that on the record because I think that there was a difference among parties as to how that was to be handled, and I respect that. But I think clearly there was an anticipation that it would take 60 votes.
I think I'm just going to refrain from entering into the discussion regarding that. I thank you both for your comments. I want to thank you for the tremendous role you've played this year as a new member in foreign relations. I'm so glad that things worked out where we could have 2 senators from Georgia. And thank you so much for digging into the issues the way you have. I want to